Okay, we're up to the Chaf Beis Amid Beis, the Mishnah. So some very interesting pictures. The first ones are imaginatory. You put a sukkah on top of a wagon. You put the sukkah on top of a wagon. Sfino on top of a boat. Then kishera. It's gonna be kasha. It's gonna be kasha. It's, in other words, a sukkah can be diras aroi. These are temporary dwellings. So you put it on top of a golo, on top of a sfino, kishera. The boat is moving, so the golo is moving. There's a shaila whether in the Rishonim whether it has to be stagnant or could even be moving. A boat, Taisa said before, could even be moving because that's what boats do. Anyway, and you can go on them on Yantif. The reason we learned this is for the next halacha. If you make it in a tree, oil gabi gomo, or on top of an animal. Now you're not allowed to go onto a tree on Shabbos, and you're not allowed to mishtamish with a tree, nor are you allowed to go on an animal on Shabbos, because we're worried you may cut off a branch and that's the animal. So these cases, kasher, it's a kosher sukkah, and ein oil lehem b'yantif, but you could use it in a chalamoid. In other words, if you can't use it in yantif, so what do you mean it's a good sukkah if you can't use it? You'll use it in a chalamoid. You can't go in the first day of yantif, but you could use it right on chalamoid. So again, a tree or an animal, it's a good sukkah. However, you can't go in on yantif, you could have called right. An agala or a ship, you could use even on yantif. Shtayim be'ilan. Okay, the next three pictures, it's very hard to see this. There's a machlekes Rishonim. Let's see Rashi. Guys, picture book 80, page 80. Bottom right. Page 80, bottom right. This is considered one man-made wall, and the other ones are on the tree. Notice, don't look at the wall on top. Look at the wall coming up from the bottom. You only have one coming up from the bottom, right? Next picture. This is two bidei adam and one be'ilan. You have the one on the bottom on the side, and if you look through the ladder, you see one in the back. So that's two. And next page, page 81, you have three. You have three. Now, all these are ksherim sukkahs, but the problem is you won't be able to go in them in Yontif, perhaps. Says the Mishnah. Shtayim be'ilan, two of the walls are in the tree. Va'achad bidei adam, and one of the walls is made bidei adam, meaning it's on the ground. It's on the ground. Shtayim bidei adam, two are on the ground. Va'achas be'ilan, kshera, it's kosher v'sukkah. Ve'ein oilen la b'yantif, because again, you'll be mishamish be'ilan, you're going to be using the tree. However, shalish bidei adam ba'achas be'ilan, if you have three on the ground and one in the tree, then kshera would be kosher, and not only is it kosher for oil la b'yantif, and you can go on a yantif. The reason being, if I have three that's man-made, if I would take away the tree, it would still be standing a sukkah. Conversely, if I have one or two, if you take away the tree, it will topple over. So that's the difference. As the Mishnah now concludes, Zeh HaKlal, here's our rule. Kol shenita ilan, if you would take away the tree, and it's able to go ahead and stand by itself, then kshera, it's kasha for oilah b'yantif, and you'll be able to go ahead and go in on a yantif. Okay, so we have a Mishnah tells us about a sukkah on a boat that's kasha. Says the Gemara, mani masnisan. Who is the Tana of the Mishnah who says if you put something on a boat, a sukkah on a boat, that it's kasha, and you can go in on yantif? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Kiva, it's Rabbi Kiva. The Tanya, Rabbi Kiva is of the opinion, someone makes a sukkah at the top of a boat. Rabbi Gamliel Paisel, says Rabbi Gamliel, it's puzzle. Rabbi Gamliel is worried about the wind, that the wind is going to take down those sukkah. It's much windier in sea than it is on dry land. Dry land, the Rashi brings that the mountains go ahead and form a barrier. Mashen Kain on the sea where there's no mountains, you have a stronger wind. Rabbi Akiva Makshir, and Rabbi Akiva says a sukkah on a boat is kosher. Maisa of Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Akiva. It was a Maisa of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Gamliel. It's funny. Shahaya boy and besfina. We have Maisas them coming in the boat. If you might remember in Erevin, they wanted to figure out the tchum, and he had this they had this piece of reed that was able to measure 2,000 that you could ever see. That was the Ma'aser of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Akiva on the boat. It seems Rabbi Akiva got around. Again, he was Rabbi Shel Yisrael. He was the. But anyway, so Ma'aser Rabbi Gimel and Rabbi Akiva Shei B'Srina. Amar Rabbi Akiva was the Sukkah B'Rosh Hashanah. L'Shita. What did he do? He put a sukkah at the top of the boat. L'macha the next day, Nishba Ruach, the wind came, Va'akrasa, and it uprooted the sukkah. There was no sukkah anymore. So Amar Lo Rabbi Gamliel, Akiva, Heichin Sukkascha. Where's your sukkah? Okay, a nice Maisa. Now, you learn this Gemara. There's a big kasha on this Maisa, guys. What did Rabbi Gamliel do for a sukkah? If Rabbi Gamliel held that it's not good, so what did he do for a sukkah, right? So listen to this. One second, we get the sefer. It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating how nothing goes by. It's the kasha. It's amazing. So what if he held it was puzzle? So Taka, what did he do for a sukkah? So listen to this. Look at Masechta Pesachim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Durtoi on Daf Ayin Amid Beis Holach mi Yerushalayim. He left Yerushalayim. Why did he leave Yerushalayim? Shlei la'leis l'regel. He went l'chutz la'aretz that he wouldn't have a chiyuv to be oil l'regel be a chayiv v'pesach. In other words, he avoided the carbon pesach. V'chein isim Masechta Shabbos mafligin gimel yomim koydem haShabbos. You're able to begin a trip on a boat 3 days before Shabbos. Af al pi she'yitzarech l'chal Shabbos. Ubel yo rabba kosav in Seif Simin Tofresh Mem. The mutal adam leilech lederech koydem yantif be'oifin shlayir leisukkah b'layla rishayna. If as long as you start out right before yantif, it's mutter to go, even though you want to have a sukkah. Fascinating medrash. Aruch LaNer says he had much more practical, very, very German-like. He had a sukkah at the bottom of his boat. He didn't have it on top. He had it in the bottom of the boat. And the question is, if he had it on the bottom of the boat, wasn't sukkah? He must have had it by the cargo hold, where where the nets go down with the fish. It must have been over there. But again, it's not a maisa, but it's a good kasha. What did he do? You have two drachim. He didn't need a sukkah, or he did have a sukkah. Okay, as we stated, the wind blows much stronger on the sea than it does in dry land. So let's be machalik between a ruach mitsuya, a common wind, and a ruach eina mitsuya, an uncommon wind, a very powerful wind. Says the Gemara. Amar Abaya, the Kuli Alma, Sai Rabbi Gamliel and Sai Rabbi Akiva, Heicha de eina yecholu lamud beruach mitsuya, the Abasha, a ruach that's found on dry land. If that sukkah is not able to go ahead and take that wind, everyone, even Rabbi Akiva, is moda le klumhi. Even Rabbi Akiva would be moda, it's nothing. Even Rabbi Akiva would be moda, it's nothing. He would say that again, if this sukkah, this is not even diras haroy, it's nothing. If it's able to stand up on an eina mitsuya de abasha, meaning you get a starker wind on dry land, it's able to take that. Even Rabbi Gamliel would be moida that sukkah is good. So Rabbi is qualifying this machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Akiva is saying it is good on a boat, and Rabbi Gamliel says it's not good on a boat. It depends. Rabbi Akiva will be moida by a common wind on dry land that it's no good, and Rabbi Gamliel will be moida on a gezunta wind on dry land that it is good on the boat. So key please. So when is the machlokes? The yechayla lamoy beruach mitsuya de abasha. It's able to stand by a ruach mitsuya de abasha. However, the eina yachal lamoy. Look at the side. Beruach mitsuya de yam. The machlokes is where it can tolerate, right? It can tolerate a ruach mitsuya on yabasha, but that wind would knock it over on the sea. Rabbi Gamliel is of the opinion it is a sukkah's keva. Since it's not able to take what's the common ruach of the sea, lav klumhu. Rabbi Kiva said no. Sukkah diras aroy beinan. The kiven yechol lama ruach mitsuya the abashak sheira. And since it's able to take what? A ruach mitzui and yabasha, it would be kasha. So again, we're saying the machlokes is by a wind that is you could take it on dry land, but you can't take it on the sea. That would be the machlokes, by that type of wind. Oy al gabe gomel, we said you put it on a camel, right? Oy al gabe gomel, you're going to go ahead, Rod, and put it on a camel, or what? Or a tree. We said that what? That it's good sukkah. There ain't oil ben b'yantif, but you can't go ahead, Rod, and go on yantif. Let me just. Mastisa money. Who's the Tana of Mishnah? Rabbi Meir. It's Rabbi Meir. The Tanya. Ha'ois sukkah yagabe behema. If someone makes a sukkah on top of an animal, but again, guys, a sukkah zayin tfachim. You know, you think about the case. You say, "Wow, how is that possible?" You know, you ask an Uncle Elliot question. Olav Shalom. You know, how is it possible to put it on? Guess what? Zayin tfachim is this. It's probably about 2 feet. That's not. It's tiny. It's tiny. So it can zayin. You know, you look at the picture. You see a picture. It looks like this on the camel. It looks funny, but it's not the strangest thing in the world. It's not the strangest thing in the world. Right? You ever see they make the agala on these they make sukkahs on these like mitzvah tanks, right? They drive around in cars. So that would be the sukkah on top of the behema, right? Now the question, the shaila in the Rishonim is, do you need the behema to be in one place? And can the car also has to stop or not? That would be like a good halachic in the discussion, that whether the car has to be stagnant to be a sukkah or it can be moving. It would be contingent upon if this is a sukkah only when the animal is stopped or even when the animal is moving. Okay. Anyway, money Rabbi the Tanya always the person. My time Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say it's puzzle? What does Rabbi Yehuda say it's puzzle? So Amakra, the pasuk says, Chag HaSukkos, the Yontiv HaSukkos, Tasa Lecha Shivas Yamim. The Yontiv HaSukkos you should make for yourself what? 7 days. So why do it mean 7 days? You need Sukkah Haru'uya L'Shiva. You need a sukkah that what is right for 7 days. The sukkah has to be able to stand for 7 days. Right. Sukkah Rui L'Shiva Shema Sukkah is called a sukkah, and Sukkah Shein Rui L'Shiva L'Shema Sukkah. So the Mela on an animal l'chayre, it's only going to be temporary. It's not going to be for 7 days, and therefore what? Now, why does it mean temporary? It's not for 7 days. You can't go on it in the first day. The sukkah can stay on the animal. It's not as chesaron in the physical material of the sukkah. It could stay in there a month. It could stay in there a year. That's not what it means. Since the first day of Yontif, you're not allowed to go on the animal because you're not allowed to use the animal. Mimela what? You can't go ahead what? And it's not 7 days. I'll be with you in a second, Meya. Says in the word. So Omakra, Chaga Sukkah Stasel Shivas Yomim, Sukkah Rui L'Shiva, Shma Sukkah, Sukkah Shein Rui L'Shiva, Lo Shma Sukkah. Remeya Hanami Midaraisa. Remeya. What does Remeya do with that? Hanami Midaraisa Michsa Chazi. For a button who the Gazabahu. So it's Midaraisa. It's a good sukkah. The reason you can't use an animal is why? It's the Rabbanon. So it's the Rabbanon Dikadin that's going to stop you from 7 days. Remeya says is not going to go ahead and say you can't use the sukkah. It's still a good sukkah. Okay. Yes, Meya.
Growing up in Montreal, there was one sukkah where
I feel bad for you.
I thank you. Okay, I remember one sukkah when we woke up in the morning and the whole sukkah was thrown off the deck of the backyard because that's how the weather's like in Montreal. So if that's a sukkah that's not if that happens, more than not, then how can you ever build a sukkah in Montreal? It's not a sukkah that's roy for 7 days.
I'm asking you, is it common? Is it ruach mitzuya? Is that you remember one time in your life? It must have been ruach sheina mitzuya because
okay.
Again, if a ruach mitzuya, you have to build a sukkah. Again, I can't answer for Montreal, but again, I feel bad for you having lived there. But I'm saying if you go ahead, you have to build according to the place where everybody's supposed to stand. But it's supposed to stand over there. Now, be aware, it's very interesting. This is very, very interesting. We brought this Gemara earlier with this about that you need something to stand for a long period of time. You might remember this. You might remember this. We said that a bunch of people, they all said the same thing. A bunch of Amoraim or Tanoim, they all said the same thing, right? We said that, for example, Reb Shimon said you need a sukkah with 4 walls. Rabbi Shammai said you need a sukkah that and Rabbi Gamliel is saying you need a sukkah that it can't be on a boat. And so we had a whole bunch of cases over here. And when you have that, says the Ran says when kulam echad, we don't paskin like that. So we paskin like Rabbi Akiva. But you could make it on a boat. Okay, and we're not worried about the wind. It's as long as it's able to go ahead and take the wind on regular land, you're okay. Okay, nu halacha, using an animal as a wall. Using an animal as a wall, very interesting. Says the Gemara. Asala behema doifin l'sukkah. Okay, we have to look at this picture, like a mitzvah. Look at this picture, page 81. Right, again, say hello to Daisy. Right. May don't buy the book. I'm going to buy it for you because I don't think you'll ever buy it. Okay, so page 81.
I appreciate that. I just have not been. I've been busy, thank God. I mean,
okay. Anyway, 81. Right. So you see, if you would go ahead and have two walls and you have an animal there, that would be a good sukkah according to Reb Meir. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Also, Rabbi Yehuda Paisel, Rabbi Yehuda Machshir. So Rabbi Meir Omer, Kol Davar Sheyesh Bo Ruach Chayim, Ein Oisen Asal Loi Doifin L'Sukkah, Loi Lechi L'Mavli. We had this in Erevin. You can't make it as what as a wall. You can't make it what as a wall, nor can you make it as a lechi. Again, you might recall, you have a mavui, 3 walls around it. It's Rosh Hashanah, the Araisa. We go ahead the way the Matur is it through a koira, a beam, or a lechi. You can't go ahead and have it. That's what you remember in Erevin as a lechi. You can't have it as a sideboard. For like passing the birois, again, your Rosh Hashanah, the bar, the waters of Rosh Hashanah, you're going to draw it on Shabbos from there. So you make these 4 right angles, and one of the right angles you're going to be using what? You're going to be using an animal. You have the picture of it on page 82. This it gives you a cow for this one. There you go. Again, you can't use for any of these things. Like goyel kever, you can't use it as the covering of a kever. It won't be makabel tuma. In addition, you can't write a get on a live animal. My time to Reb Meir, who says it's what it is puzzle. That's the reason. So we have machlekes. Why can't you use an animal as a wall? Why not? Why can't I use an animal as a wall? So we're going to have 2 Amoraim disagreeing in the opinion of the Tana Reb Meir. Abaya Omar, Shema Tamus. You're going to have it's going to be there. Maybe it's going to drop dead. You need 10 tefachim. If it drops dead, you don't have 10 tefachim. And therefore, your wall died. And your wall died. In Montreal, the animal would freeze to death, right? It would die. It wouldn't be there. Reb Zera Omar, Reb Zera says, Shema Tivrach. What you're worried about is the animal running away. Not worrying about it dying, you're worried about the animal running away. Now, Bipil kosher, if you have a tied up elephant, Kuli Amalei Pligi. Reb Zera and Abaya, who argue in the Sfara of Meir, would not disagree. Why? The Inami Mayas, Yesh B'nei Vlasei, Yud. If an elephant drops dead on your sukkah, now you don't have a wall problem. You may have a smell problem. We discussed earlier when we said the schach was smelly, right? I asked you then, what's the difference between that and using the doifin as a wall? I asked you then. Now maybe you'll appreciate the kasha a little more, right? L'chayra, anyway, the answer is a good answer. We spoke out, guys, it's a kosher sukkah. People don't live that way, and maybe you shouldn't be in there the rabbanon, but the sukkah is kosher. So Rameya says it's possible. Why is it possible? Because maybe it'll run away or maybe it'll die, depending on a Abaye verb Zera. Over here, you don't have to worry about either. One is tied up, so you don't have to worry about running away. And two, if it dies, you have Yud Fachim. So either way, even Reb Meir will be moida. That's a good wall for a sukkah, a tied up elephant. Ki pligi, where's the machlokes? The pil sheina kosher, an elephant that's not tied up. Lamanda ama shema tamus loy chashinon. You're not worried about misa, so you could use it as a wall. Lamanda ama gezer shema tivrach chashinon. So like the mandi ama that maybe it'll walk away, maybe it'll walk away. Fred the Gemara kasha lamanda ama gezera shema tamus necha shema tivrach. Guys, if you have an elephant and you want to sit in a sukkah and the elephant's not tied up and you're not worried about it dying, you expect that elephant to stay in one spot. Even if you're not worried about Misa, you still have to take into account the animal's going to move away, right? So it's hard to say that case he would agree that it's a good wall. Ella, the pil she'ena kasha, if it's an elephant that's not kasha, kuli amalei pligi, everyone that it's puzzle. In other words, even Rabbi Yehuda would say an untied elephant is puzzle because it's going to walk away. Ki pligi b'vehema kashura, an animal that's not yud tfachim, a regular animal that's tied up. Lamanda amagezer shema tamus chayshinon. I'm chayish that it's going to die, and since it's not large, when it dies, it will no longer be yud tfachim. I won't have a wall. Lamanda amagezer shema tivrach loy chashinon, because it's tied up. Since it's tied up, I have nothing to worry about. So if you would have a sheep that's 10 tefachim high, if it's tied up, like the man the Omar, that you're going to worry that it dies, it's not a good wall. Like the man the Omar that's going to run away, you don't have to worry, it's not going to run away. Fred the Gemara, lets them worry about it dying. It says my misa le shchicha. Misa is not shchiach. In other words, misa might be shchiach, but not for a short period of time. We discussed this earlier. By the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, Rabbi Yehuda says, guys, right, that you're worried maybe his wife's going to die. He said, "Chayish." Okay, we'll get into it soon. There's Hashem. Yes, Hesh.
Well, you mentioned before about smell. Why aren't you worried about behemoth defecating by the sukkah, and then you can't sit in the that's shchiach.
We want to worry about the animal. We want to worry about being kosher sukkah or not.
And
the animal defecating will not pass the sukkah.
No, you can't sit in the sukkah. That's the sukkah
Hesh,
itself.
Listen to my words. Hesh, is the sukkah
I understand.
Kosher? Your mitzvah is part from a sukkah. So there's a lacha that it's a kosher sukkah, and there's times I can't sit in it. You can't say the sukkah is not a sukkah because the animal defecated.
Okay, I got that.
What's the status of the sukkah? You're running a good point. I'm telling you, an elephant, even without defecating, forget about it.
So I would. So on another matter, on the flip side, an animal that maybe will run away would be like a ruach mitzuya. It would be the same kind of thing because it would be prevalent that it's not a sukkah then.
And the Mandiyama says that an animal will run away. Einachinami says it's not a good sukkah. It's not a good sukkah. It's not a good sukkah.
Okay.
Now, says the Gemara, misale shchicha. So now, I have an animal tied up. And l'chayra, you don't have a problem. For the Gemara, you do have a problem. For ikravcha de beini beini, you have underneath the animal more than 3 tfachim. It's the l'chayra. It's not a good wall. And for the Gemara, the avadlei b'chutz v'dafna. Take a look at page 82. Page 82. Look what they did to this poor sheep. Look between its legs. They put up some type of fence over there between its legs, and that is going to go ahead on and somehow make a difference. Again, for this, I certainly prefer some of these pictures. Here, this picture, 396, guys. You see, you have a cow as the wall. For the Gemara, I have the space. So look what we did over here. What do we do? Right? We put something like this. You see? By putting this, now it's going to cover it up. So that's chutzah v'dafna. That will be chutzah v'dafna. Okay, that will be very good. Fred the Gemara, Vidilma Rava, maybe it'll crouch down. Maybe it'll crouch down. And for the Gemara, the Masicha Ba'ashlei Mila'el, you're going ahead, page 82, the last picture on the page, you have ropes suspending, holding up the animal. So Nebuch, this animal is tied up. It's got boards underneath between its legs, and you're holding it up, right? Is it a kasha sukkah? Light them on the amma that it's a kasha sukkah. Now, they got a great kasha, guys. Like the man the amma that you're worried about death, correct? It's not a good sukkah, correct? But if it's going to drop dead, the animal, and it's being suspended by these ropes, and it's got something underneath, what are you worried about? Why like the man the amma that you're worried about Misa? What are you worried about? You'll have a dead setting, Hesh. You'll have a dead wall there, right? Says the Gemara. The mukim b'pachas mishleisha samach l'schach. Here's what you did. Page 83. Here's what you did. This animal is a little less than 3 next to the schach. When it's alive, it's standing. What happens when it dies? It's going to lose, and then it's going to be less than 3, more than 3. If it's more than 3, you're not going to say lavud, and you won't have a kasha sukkah. So that's the case. Zimnin de pachas mishoisha samach l'schach amid beis v'kivin de maisa, and since it dies, kavtsa, it's going to shrink. Right, the animal's going to go down. V'lava daitoy, and a person's not going to be aware of it. So like the man the Amar of that, maybe that we're not worried about death. I'm always going to have my sukkah. I'm going to have a 7. I'm going to have less than 3. The animal within 7, less than 3 is 10. It's not going to go ahead and move away because it's tied up. It's not going to crouch down because it's suspended. You don't have to worry about the space between its legs because it's filled in. You got a sukkah. Like the man with death, you're worried that when it dies, it'll shrink a little bit. Then it won't be within 3. You won't have you won't have a wall, and you won't be thinking about it. Good. Now, so according to this, we had a machloikas Abaya and Rabbi Zera in Reb Meir. Rabbi Zera said you're worried it's going to run away, and Abaya said you're worried about death. That Reb Meir, who holds you can't use a wall for a sukkah, you're worried about death. So now the Gemara goes off and digresses to different places in Shas where we'll see Reb Meir is not worried about death. If he's not worried about death, in those places, why is he worried about death by sukkah? So again, Machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Meir, can you use a living animal? Rabbi Yehuda says you can, he's off the chart. We're questioning Reb Meir. My time with Reb Meir says Abaya of Reb Zera. Says Reb Zera, you're worried about running away. Says Abaya, you're worried about dying. So Abaya says in Reb Meir, you're worried about dying. I'll show you different places in Shas where Reb Meir is not worried about dying. Good, and that's going to be our problem. Says the Gemara, Umi Amar Abaya Reb Meir Chayish Lemisa, Rabbi Yehuda Loi Chayish, Vatnam, we learned in the Mishnah, Bas Yisrael, Shenisas L'Koyin, a Bas Yisrael, that marries the Koyin. Now, she eats Truma as long as she's married to a Koyin. Once the Koyin dies, she doesn't eat Truma anymore. She eats Truma as long as she's married to a Koyin. Good? So now, she's married to this Koyin, V'holach Bailam Dinas Hayom, and he goes overseas. And the question is he alive or not? Can she eat Truma b'cheskas that he's alive or not? So Echelis b'Truma, b'cheskas shu kayim. So we're not chayish lemisa, correct? She still continues to eat because we'll say he's alive. Ureminu Allah, and we asked on it, I'll show you that, what? You are chayish lemisa. Harizeh gitech sha'achas koydem isasi. A guy says the following, this should be your get 1 hour before I die. Now you'll say, what's the difference whether she's a gerusha or an almana? There's a huge difference. Le'inyan yibum and chalitza. Let's say you don't have any children, and if she's divorced, then there's no chalitza. If she's an almana, then she falls to her brother's, her husband's brother for chalitza. So this would be the scenario why a person would go ahead and give a get on a tanai to make her an almana, a gerusha rather than an almana. So now, Uriminu Allah, Harizekitech Sha'achas Kodim Misasi, Asur Lechel B'Truma Miyad. She can't eat immediately. Why? Because Yechayish that he's going to die. Yechayish that he's going to die. So you have a stira. When he goes for a trip, you're not chayish l'misa. When he gives you a get, you are chayish l'misa. Are you concerned that person dying or not? Apparently, by regarding marriage and staying married, you are concerned. By truma, you're not concerned. V'amar Abaya, loy kasha, not problematic at all. Ha Rab Meya, the loy chayish l'misa. The brisa that says that when he goes on a trip, you can eat truma, is according to Reb Meir, who's not chayish l'misa. There's your kasha, guys. There's your kasha. Why did Abaya say the reason for Reb Meir that you can't go ahead and use an animal as a daifin? You chayish, the animal is going to die. Good. Now you may ask a good question. Maybe there's a difference between a human being and an animal, right? Okay. Anyway, see Taisus. Says the Gemara, Harab chayish l'misa, Harab Yehuda chayish l'misa. So again, what's the answer to the stira? Guys, let's get the answer to the stira and then the application to the question. We have one place saying that if the person travels, we're not chayish l'misa. We have another place saying that if a person gives a get, you chayish l'misa. And for the Gemara, this that you're not chayish l'misa is Rabbi Yehuda, this that you chayish l'misa is Meya. Oh, you've just proven that Meya is chayish l'misa, so then why buy the animal according to Abaya, right? Why are you not chayish l'misa? Why, says, why, Rameya, excuse me, I said it totally wrong. Rameya is the one who says you eat truma because you're not chayish l'misa on the trip. We'll say you're alive. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who said by get, you are chayish l'misa. Questions the Gemara. Why by the sukkah is it concerning that the animal is going to die? And why by the person is he not concerned? And for the Gemara, the Tanya, now, we first have to prove that Rabbi Yehuda says Yechayish Lamisa. Okay, guys, outside. We've had this Gemara multiple times. This person, it's Erev Shabbos. He wants to go ahead and drink wine for Shabbos. He buys wine from a kuti before they made the gezerah that you can't stuff stam yena from a kuti. They hold it was still good gerim. And he doesn't have a keli to go ahead and shade up and separate truma. So what does he do? He says in this kli, let's say the kli is 100 loig. He goes, two loigim should be. Both sons calling at this Seder Shabbos. So this 50%, he said 1/50th, 2 loigim should be truma. A 10th should be what? Should be Ma'aser Rishon. And 9 should be Ma'aser Sheni. And then you take money, you machal on the Ma'aser Sheni, because that you can take care of. And then you drink. That's Reb Meir. You go ahead and drink it. So Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, you can't drink it. What are you worried about? The Gemara says, aren't you worried that you're going to drink it and then the barrel is going to break? And once the barrel breaks, so your truma has gone down the tubes. You don't have it. So Reb Meir says, what? You can go ahead and drink. I'm not chayish shema yibaka node. I'm not chayish, maybe it'll get broken. Me Reb Yehuda is chayish. So what do we see? Reb Yehuda, if he's chayish for the barrel breaking, he's also chayish lemisa. So therefore we've established, Reb Meir says you're not chayish lemisa, because he says if the husband goes overseas, the woman takes a trip, the woman eats, becheskas that the husband's alive. And by get where you don't eat, that's Reb Yehuda. That's what you've proven. But we have a kasha. Reb Meir, you say that what? You're not chayish lemisa, yet you won't let an animal be used as a wall according to Abaye and Reb Meir, because you worry the animal dying. So you see you are chayish lemisa. And for the Gemara, epoch, switch it around. Reb Meir chayish lemisa, Reb Yehuda chayish lemisa. Like I told you earlier with my mistake. By the trip and by the get. We said that Reb Meir is the one who is not chayish lemisa. No. Reb Meir is the one who is chayish lemisa. He's the mandam of the get. If a guy gives a get and says you're divorced 1 hour before I die, she can't eat truma anymore. That's Reb Meir who is chayish lemisa. And Reb Meir is very geschmack. If he's chayish l'misa over there, he's chayish by the doif, and by the sukkah also the animal's going to die. And Abaya stimmt. And what? You're going to say that Rabbi Yehuda is chayish that it's going to break? Rabbi Yehuda is, no, it's not chayish l'misa. Now you have a question. You have two questions. One place is by sukkah is chayish, not, says the Gemara the following. So Eipach, Remeya chayish l'misa, Rabbi Yehuda chayish l'misa. The Tanya, I saw the behem and die from the sukkah. Remeya paisel Rabbi Yehuda machshir. So very good. Remeya says it's possible because your chayish is going to die. Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher because what? You're not chayish, it's going to die. Now kosher the Remeya. Over here that what? Remeya says that what by sukkah it's possible because it's going to die, right? Yet over there he said that by misa, right? So what did he say? Kosher Remeya the Remeya. Amalach Remeya misa shchicha b'kiyas another shchicha. Okay, so now forget sukkah. You answered up sukkah. We answered up sukkah. That's good. You know what? Remeya does not let you use an animal as a wall because Remeya is chayish. The animal is going to die. Why does Rabbi Yehuda allow you use it as a wall? Because he's not chayish. The animal is going to die. Now taking that. Now forget the other two cases of get because we answered that up and trip. Now let's apply it to the case of the barrel of wine. Remeya is not worried that the barrel is going to break. Yet on the other hand, he's worried the animal is going to die. That was our question. Now it's a new question. So you have a stira in Remeya. Why by sukkah is he worried the animal is going to die? And why by barrel is he not worried it's going to break? You have a stira in Rabbi Yehuda. Why by animal he's not worried it's going to die? And why by a barrel he is chayish it's going to break, right? With sushtelling, dying and breaking. Good. One more time. Wall, sukkah. Remeya, no good. Why? Animal die. Rabbi Yehuda, good. Animal not die. In wine, Remeya, drink, not break. Rabbi Yehuda, yes break. Stira right there. No die. Yes die, no break. No die, yes break. Right? That's the kasha. If that made any sense with the hands. Anyway, it says the Gemara. Inside. One more time. Kasha de Remeya de Remeya. Kasha of Remeya, who says what? By sukkah yechayish l'misa, and by here, by wine, you're not worried about it breaking. Amalach Remeya, misa shchicha, misa is common. B'kiyas and shchicha. Why? Efshe the muscle of the shomer. You could watch a barrel that it shouldn't break. You can't watch a person or an animal that it won't die. When the time comes, right? So one is in your hands to go ahead and ensure, and therefore Remeya allows you to go ahead and be mafresh, shuma and maisa by calling a name on it, and by the wall, misa shchicha. Okay, now Rabbi Yehuda. Now also you have a stira kasha Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda. You have a kasha Rabbi Yehuda on Rabbi Yehuda, right? You have a kasha Rabbi Yehuda on Rabbi Yehuda. What's the kasha Rabbi Yehuda on Rabbi Yehuda? Again, by wall, he says you're not worried about misa. Yet over here, you're worried about what Shem Yibaka Nod. Okay, guys, outside. If you really remember, this sugya is a sugya of brera. What's brera? It's called retroactive, something that transpires later shows retroactively. So what's the sugya of brera, by the wine? When you have leftover wine, it's huvra hadavel mafreya. It retroactively shows that this is the wine that you separated Erev Shabbos. This is the truma, and this is the maisa. This is the truma. Whatever's left over, we say brera. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning that you can't drink it is not because he's worried about the barrel breaking. He's not worried about the barrel breaking. Just like he's not worried about the animal dying, he's not worried about the animal, the barrel breaking. No kasha. So therefore, why would he not allow you to do it then? Because he holds ein brera. That's why. So if we answered up the kashas, Rabbi, by the wall, where misa shchiach, says Reb Meir, according to Abaya, no good. By the barrel, where I can watch it, says Reb Meir, it's good that you're not worried about it. Good. Rabbi Yehuda, you're not concerned about what? About the animal dying, so why are you concerned about the barrel breaking? I'm not concerned about the barrel breaking. The reason I don't let you drink from it is a total different reason. It's a lumdis. I don't say breira. I don't say that it's clear retroactively that this is the wine. That's it. You might have to remember this, guys. We had this in Erevin, where you had the Talmidei Chachamim coming one direction, the other direction. He says, he puts it by which one. He goes, whichever one I go to will show that's where I want to go in the first place. So I wanted he had to walk 4,000 amas in that direction. So that was breira. We'll say Bein Hashmashas. It was Hufalim Aftei. That's where it was kind of shvisa. Okay, if you remember it, fine. If not, it's also fine. So says the Gemara Vaita. Time Rabbi Yehuda la mishum the chayish le b'kiyas hanoid. Eli mishum the less late breira. He doesn't know the breira. Fred the Gemara of chayish Rabbi Yehuda le b'kiyas hanoid. How can you say Rabbi Yehuda is not suspicious that maybe the barrel will break? From the Tani Seifa, the Seifa of the Amruloi, Reb Meir, they told Reb Meir, Reb Meir, how can you allow him to drink wine? Aren't you worried that this truma, the barrel will break? So you see when they retorted to Reb Meir, with that retort, it must be he is worried about breaking and not breira. Amalahu, no. And Reb Meir answered, what when it breaks? Mechal dechayish Reb Yehuda b'kiyas hanoid. Says one no. Hasam Reb Yehudahu ka'amal Reb Meir. This is what Rabbi Yehuda told Reb Meir. Listen, Lididi, the reason I don't allow you to go ahead and separate the wine, Leslie Breira, I don't hold the Breira. El Doch, but according to you, the Yesh Breira, you hold of Breira. Aren't you worried that it's going to break? Once you say Yesh, aren't you worried? So Amalei, so he answered what? He answered when it breaks. Let's just finish it. The sugya flows along. Says you tell me that, guys, Rabbi Yehuda allows you to use a sukkah, a wall as a sukkah. He's not chayish lemisa. For a time, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af ish acheres misaknin Allah, shema tamas ishtay, shtei in Torah, the chipe ba'adoy u'ba'ad beisoy. It says by Aaron on Yom Kippur that he's going to bring a par, the chipe ba'adoy, and the par will be a kapara for him, v'ad beisoy, and for what his wife, v'ma beisoy zu ishtay, meaning he needs a wife. So therefore, just like you separated another kohen gadol because you were worried about tumah, you separated another wife. Why you separated another wife? Because you're worried about the wife dying. So what do you see? Rabbi Yehuda is chayish lemisa. So how can you tell me by the animal, by the wall, he's not chayish? We see by Yom Kippur, by the kohen gadol, he is chayish. It's a maila that what? By kapara, by Yom Kippur, a special mile to get a kapara, we were chayish ad kedei kach. In order to ensure you'll get a kapara, to have a kohen gadol that's going to do it kil chasa, we go ahead and separate another wife, but not that really chayish lemisa. It's like go with the name of Shur Sadin, like para aduma, we go with the name of Shur Sadin. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow night, Bez Hashem, will be 10 o'clock, guys. 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Have a great Shabbos.
Thank you.
Avi Rosenzweig, is he gone? Say hi to my son. Say happy birthday to Tzvi if you see him.
Say two.
And from Kenny,
Shabbos.
here, you're muted.
Shabbos,